You know, we don't get into murder on this channel a lot, and we love true crime. What's up, weirdos? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Amy, one half of Full Dark Paranormal Explorers, where we talk about all things strange and unusual, and also deadly. We don't get into a lot of murder here, which is good that we don't do that, but we don't get into a lot of true crime on this channel. It's not like I don't have the Investigation Discovery channel on in the background all the time. It's not like we don't enjoy the curiosity of a few very old unsolved murders. And to be clear, talking about unsolved murders from 100 years ago, sure, we can go over the facts, we can be intrigued by what happened, we can take away something, we can judge it however we would like, as there are no people left because it was a murder. There's a period of time in history, and it's not just in the United States, where annihilating an entire household with an axe was extremely popular. Since we're not going to Europe anytime soon, I'm taking you to Germany here on this channel. And we're headed to a very rural farmstead called Hinterkaifeck. Yeah, I know, like a lot of other channels have gone over these things, these famous murders, these unsolved cases that just plague the entire earth. But being a living human now means that I get to be fascinated about the ways in which I could meet my demise. There are whole channels and television shows and movies devoted to this. I think we should talk about them. So out in the Bavarian forest near Munich, about an hour away, is Hinterkaifeck. It means behind Kaifeck. So there's a town called Kaifeck, and these people lived on a farm there. A bunch of buildings, a whole family. It's the Gruber family. Now, the family living at Hinterkaifeck consists of a woman named Victoria Gabriel, who is 35, her older parents, Andreas, and a name I can't pronounce, Ķīzīļa. You Google it and tell me. And Victoria's young daughter, also named Ķīzīļa, and her son Joseph, who was 2 years old. Also working for the family was a maid named Maria Baumgartner. Now, we know this is an unsolved crime. We're talking about murders, an entire family annihilation. So you know what's coming. But there were weird instances of things leading up to the murder that took place on this farm that were noted by neighbors and the family and have made it in information that we know today. One of the strange things that occurred was the family found a newspaper from the town in their house that nobody had bought. Odd. One of the main things that was discovered that was really creepy were footsteps in the snow leading from the woods to the family home, but not away, and no one could figure out whose boot prints they had been. Another odd detail is that one of the two keys to the home or to the property in some way had gone missing just days prior to the murder. So you've got a few different things that seem, that's weird, that's suspicious. Things started to get suspicious when on April 1st the youngest daughter did not show up for school, and the family didn't show up for church, where Victoria was a member of the choir. Mail started to pile up then at the post office, nobody came to get it, and the neighbors decided it was time to investigate. A man named Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Yeah. A man named Lorenz Schlittenbauer decided to lead the search party to see what had happened to the Grubers. Things get pretty intense in the barn. When Lorenz led the charge of the search party to Hinterkaifeck, they went to the barn and found 4 bodies. The 2 parents, Victoria, and her daughter, who was 7 years old. In the home they found the maid and the young 2-year-old Joseph, bludgeoned to death. Maria was found laying on the floor with defensive wounds, covered over with a sheet, and the toddler was in a bassinet, also covered. Both suffered blunt force trauma to the head. This is where it gets even darker. Do you want to know a god-awful kicker? The maid? It was her first day at the job there, and her last. And the reason she had taken that job as a maid is because the previous woman had quit. After the bodies were discovered, police started investigating people. One of those people was that former maid. She had quit working at that farmstead because she believed the place to be haunted. She had heard noises in the attic, like somebody walking around up there, over multiple occasions. So she was convinced the place was not safe in a supernatural way and peaced out. That's when Maria took the job, and Maria's first day went extremely bad. So what happened to this family? Well, autopsies were done. This was the 1920s. There were signs of strangulation on the elder 괊ᴜʀɪ, also blunt force trauma, complete shattering of the skull and facial bones of two of the members, Andreas, the elder father, and the young daughter. They also discovered young 괊ᴜʀɪ had fistfuls of her own hair in her hands as though she were pulling it out. And the autopsies also showed it was likely that she had been alive for several hours after the attack and in complete shock. That's the darkest part. We're going to move forward from there. Who did this? That's why we're here, and it's unsolved because we don't know. Dozens of people were arrested and considered suspects over the years. Even 100 years later, people have been looking at this case, and there is a likely suspect that was considered when an entire forensics analysis was done, but that person's name remains private because they do have descendants, and we're not, you don't leak that. All of those people passed away, and the suspect is obviously gone, leaving behind this mystery. And this was a family that generally apparently kept to themselves and were fairly quiet. They didn't necessarily have a lot of drama, but you'll notice Victoria was a single woman with 2 young children, and she couldn't do that herself. So where's the father? So one of the suspects was the father who had been killed in World War I. And they thought, oh, maybe he didn't die and he came back and he's jealous. The guy who led the search party was a man Victoria had had a relationship with. And so it was surmised that maybe her ex, who actually had passed away in World War I, could have actually survived and come back and done this. He definitely served in the war and gave it all. Even with a few domestic disputes known about within the family and the other men connected to the family, nobody could be proven to be the killer. So of course it turned to like, oh, maybe it's vagrants or travelers, people coming through the area. But the extremely personal attack on those people's bodies meant it was likely somebody they knew or who was connected to them. I have watched a lot of true crime. I watch SVU and I know how these things work. Now you might think, all right, if they died on April 1st and nobody thought to check on them until the 4th, what was happening? Chimney smoke was still pouring from their farmhouse chimney as though somebody was in there. The person who killed them apparently might have been in the attic after all and left cigarette butts behind, food that they had eaten, prepared and eaten, and also fed the farm animals, keeping them alive in the days after they performed the attack. So a person stayed in the home, waited for the perfect opportunity, lured them to a particular place and killed them. So again, mid-century, axe, waiting in a home for a family, just seemed trendy for a minute in history. Am I right? Smarter people than me have written books on that. Now, this isn't where the story ends, and it doesn't even end with people reopening this case to try to figure it out later. What happened during the Gruber family's autopsies and the maid were a little also gruesome. They were beheaded, and their skulls were cleaned and sent to analysis in Munich, and also to clairvoyance to try to figure out if somebody could divine the way this might have occurred. Obviously, anyone who thought they had psychic abilities came up short, and still no killer was found. But the farm having been demolished in 1923 and the family members being buried meant they were buried beheaded. To this day, those skulls were lost over the turmoil of World War II, and no one's seen them since. So if you have a skull in your closet, you don't know where it came from, you might want to turn that in. And that's the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders. I know it's kind of dark to jump into that right away, but ooh, this one is so fascinating, isn't it? What do you think? Someone who knew the family? Someone one of the people had an affair with? Was it personal, or was it just somebody really angry, really close to an axe, and still felt like feeding animals after committing brutal familicide? It's familicide. After completing a brutal axe murder in Hinterkaifeck. This has been Full Dark Unsolved, your first one. I hope you liked it. Thank you for sticking around. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment. And you know the deal. Stay weird. Well, in this one, stay safe.